Good morning. Welcome to the Michael Key General Membership Meeting. We have a wonderful presenter today. I'm at a loss for words to, he really makes things happen at the, what's that thing, Field Day? Oh, okay, yeah, Field Day. So we're gonna let Dave have the floor, and he's gonna present our Field Day presentation. All right.
Thank you, Carl. I appreciate the esteemed introduction. It's my good morning, everyone. It's great to see so many people here and online. If you don't know me, I'm David, WA7DY. I am your Field Day chair for this year. So I'm going to start off with this. The very first thing, if you have not signed up for Field Day, I'm going to ask you to take out your phone now. Not Dan. Dan will catch him on CW or send him a fax or whatever it is Dan does. Yeah. So take out your phone. Take a picture of this. Even if you're not going to sign up, just humor me and pretend. What all this is a short form. The form will provide you some basic details about Field Day, where, when, some basic times. If you don't, if you're not hanging on my every word during this presentation, the details will be on there. It's just a few selections that you can make to let us know, are you coming to Field Day? Can we expect you for setup? Just so we can plan, so we know how many people we'll have, at the different phases of the event. So you can fill that out now, or you can fill that. I'll also show this again at the end. I will also send this out via email, but that would be great, because it really does, we may change our plans, right? We may, I won't be negative. I won't say we'll remove a station. We may add a station, right? We may do some other stuff that we wouldn't do if we didn't know you were coming. So I'll give everybody like another 30 seconds. Again.
Is this a Rorschach test? Looks like a map of Fort Flagler.
Oh, this thing. Oh my goodness.
Wait a minute.
How about that? I'll make sure I don't.
Microsoft made.
Okay. We'll give them another moment here in the room. Everybody online, please fill out the form if you would. The question in the room was, what's Field Day? We're about to find out. So if you don't know what Field Day is, and you're like, hey, I'm not sure what I'm signing up for, that's fine. We'll cover that. And at the end, then you can sign up. You'll be super motivated. All right, one more moment for Tim. There we go. Tim might have got it. Don't worry. We'll show it again later. So what is Field Day? Timely. So Field Day is a nationwide event. It is coordinated by the ARRL. It also encompasses Canada. So I always say nationwide, but it's actually the US and Canada. Continental, but no, Mexico's not in there. But anyway, it is a very big event. It's not just me. It is about public service, but not exclusively. So, what I mean by that is, you can have fun at Field Day. It is really about getting on the air. And I'll touch a bit more on that. It is emphatically not a contest. However, yeah, as Tim said, the ARRL is the only one to believe that. However, we do keep score, and the scores are published in the ARRL magazine sometime in like December or November. And if you are like me and you go through the list, you can pretty easily figure out, hey, where did I end up? So it's not a contest, but we do keep score. And then, it is also an opportunity for us to come together as a club and operate together, try out new things, try out other people's equipment, try out club equipment, try out your own equipment. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're like, hey, I just became a ham yesterday and like my bow fang is on the FedEx truck, you can still come. Like it's fine. The first time I came to field day, I didn't know anything, and I ended up running the GOTA station till like midnight and made like 600 points, and it was awesome. So I would say, everybody from our most experienced contesters to, brand new, even if you don't have a license, you could still come, and we could still get you on the air. So it's an opportunity to have fun. The other thing I would say is, in the life of this club, there are really 2 events a year that are the most important events. There is the swap meet, and there's field day. Every other meeting, every other net, they're important. They're great, right? Love it. Thank you guys for being here for a monthly meeting. Thank you for joining the nets. Thank you for doing all the other things that we do. And we do a lot of stuff. But swap meet and field day are it. And some people, the true believers among us, would say swap meet exists to pay for field day. So, do the math, right? So field day is really important. We work really hard at swap meet, right? And a lot of you turned out, and we're super grateful for that. But we do it to kind of keep this going and to be able to afford field day. Field day is, it's not insanely expensive, but it's not cheap. Like if we didn't have the swap meet and I asked you to pay for field day, you probably wouldn't want to pay. So anyway, just that's what field day is. So this is the goal, the official goal. I'm not going to read all this. This is what the ARRL says about field day. So you heard what I say. This is the more technical details. The basic summary here is the goal is to make as many contacts as possible with other field day stations during field day. I'll show you later how those are done, just so you have an idea. And it's on the non-WARC, if you don't know what WARC is, but it's the non-WARC HF band. So all the usual subjects, just not the bands like 17 meters, for example, or 60 meters. But the idea is for us to operate in field conditions. So that means we're going to be operating on generator power. We're going to run a little bit on solar power because that's worth some bonus points. And the idea is for us to get out and, stretch our muscles and learn. The other big part of field day, and I'll show you, I'll talk to you a bit about how we do that. And the why do we go, to the state park I'll show you where it is. It's not close to here, right? It's not super far, but it's not close. But one of the big reasons is to get out in a public location, because while we're operating, people are going to wander through, and we're going to welcome them, and we're going to, in many cases, get them on the air. We're going to educate them about amateur radio. A lot of kids are going to come through there. So it's a really great opportunity to kind of get out into the world and share our hobby, share our passions. So it's just really good. So it's a mix of a lot of things. So where do we do field day? So the club has been doing field day at Fort Flagler State Park for, I knew a couple years ago, I knew how many years. We lost a couple years to COVID, but this is probably like year 45. Yeah. So yeah, we're like a lot of years, pushing 50 years. The club's been doing field day. It wasn't a state park when it began. Oh my. Okay. So where is Fort Flagler? So this is a map of the entirety of Puget Sound. I know it's a little small. So, you've got Everett and Whidbey Island at the top, and you've got Tacoma down at the south. So you'll see the little red circle kind of in the top left. That's where Fort Flagler is on Marrowstone Island, which is near Port Townsend. So that's where it's at. It is about, sort of if you're average somewhere in the middle of the Seattle area, it's about a 2 hour, 15-minute, 2 hour and 30-minute drive. If you go around and go over the bridge, it takes about 2.5 to 2 hours and 45 minutes to get there if you take the ferry. So time wise, either way is good. If you like driving, go around. If you like the ferry, ride the ferry. But figure about 2.5 to 3 hours to get there. So like I said, not close, but not like, we're not doing field day in Spokane or something, right? So that's Marrowstone Island. It's near Port Townsend. Though if anybody's looking for accommodations, please, if you're looking for accommodations over there, please pay close attention to the map, because Port Townsend is a little bit of a drive from the field day location. I think Scott can check me, about 45 minutes, maybe. Yeah. So it's a bit of, as you see, unless you have a boat. So if you, yeah, or I would not suggest swimming. But you know, that you can consult our safety officer on swimming. So that's the location. So a little bit more about Fort Flagler. As I said, the club's been doing field day there for a really long time, and I'll show you the locations in the park where we will be. But, you know, I always like to just pause and say, this is an amazing location. It is right at the eastern end of the Strait of Juan de Fuca. So that is how the boats get in and out of Puget Sound. And it's just amazing. It's just an amazing place. You know, the views are incredible. We always see cruise ships going by. Sometimes we see submarines. We see the Victoria Clipper jet by, like, you know, 5 times a day or whatever it does. It's just an incredible place. You see deer. Yeah, just amazing location. So I talked about how long the club's been doing field day here. I pulled some pictures from the archives of the earlier field days. So this is I don't know the exact years, though some of you were probably here, but there's a picture of an early club field day. Here's a picture of I think one of the earlier years that the club was on the bluff. You know, here's a early variant of CW Beach. I always know, you know, this one I always sort of I place it in time based on the hat that guy's wearing, which you can't see, it's behind the chat. Yeah, can you sleep in your car? Absolutely. Come on, it's the Seattle area, right? You can. In this economy, if you got to sleep in your car, we'll take care of it. You can do it. We won't judge. We won't judge.
It's a campground. The car is just a very small.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's coming on the left and Cal.
Is it?
Is
I thought so.
I don't know. So anyway, I just wanted to give you all a sense of kind of, there's some history here, right? The club is, we've been doing this for a little while. There's Curtis and Don operating in the bunker. Okay, so let's talk a bit about the park and where we're going to be. So one of the big things for me, the very first time I ever went to field day, is I felt like I don't know where to go. I don't know how to participate. And I've noticed over the years, a lot of people will show up pretty enthusiastic. And, you know, sometimes we're super busy. A lot of us are technical and sort of introverted by nature, right? So when we see somebody wandering by, like, we try to be good, but we don't always, you know, grab you and say, here, you know, here's a job. So I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to understand, where are we going to be? What are we doing? So, like, if you get there and you're, you know, I want you to know, like, where to go, you know, who to see, at what time to expect what. Another thing I want to try to help with is, I think in the years past, people had complained that we didn't describe the accommodations and the times where there would be food available very well. So they felt like they were missing out on something. And then mostly what I found out was the things they thought they were missing didn't exist. So I want to make sure you're clear. You know, we want to make sure you know what is field day, but also what isn't field day, right? So just so you know what to expect. So this is the map of the whole park, just to kind of orient you. North is roughly up. The Flagler Road at the bottom, that's the road that you're going to come in on. And I'm going to show you where we'll be and where we'll be operating. So this is an aerial view of the park. We're looking north. So we're roughly, you know, oriented roughly the same way as the map. You can see that sort of giant parade ground in the middle there. There's also a Fort Flagler. So go figure, there's a giant flagpole and a giant flag. So I'm going to highlight the areas we're going to be at. So first off is the bluff. So you'll hear us call this the bluff. So I want to make sure everybody gets the terminology. There's 3 locations, and I want to make sure you all know, because all of us old hands are going to be like, see me on the bluff. And you're going to be like, what is he bluffing about? We're not, you know, so I want to make sure you know the words. So that is on the park maps. That area is going to be called Battery Grattan or Groton. I don't know how to pronounce it. But that's what it's called on the park maps, but it's going to be in that area up there. It's not the farthest north set of batteries. It's around the corner. The second area will be is down on the beach, which we call CW Beach. So if you hear somebody say, go down to CW Beach, Mike needs help, that's the beach. You'll notice there's on the right-hand side of this picture, you'll notice there's a little road that's kind of curving and going down there. That's how you get down there. It's very steep. So that's how you get down. So if you hear somebody say, hey, we'll see you at CW Beach or something, that's the beach we're talking about. It's in the north. The park has more than one like beach type area. So it's the northeast corner of the park where the lighthouse is. So that's CW Beach. And then the other area that we'll talk about is the wagon wheel. Unfortunately, the wagon wheel on the park maps is called the wagon wheel. So that's helpful. Less cryptic. The wagon wheel, and I'll show you exactly how to get there. The wagon wheel is a large kind of ovalish shaped group campground with a shelter and a barbecue, by the way, which was installed by the club because we've been camping there for ages. And that is our group camp. So, and I'll show you information about that, but just any club member, anybody who's willing to come and carry things for me can stay at that campground for free. So the club covers the cost of that. So if you're like, oh man, gas is expensive, I can't afford to drive out there and then pay, whatever a night for a campground or whatever, you can stay at the wagon wheel, and I'll show you how to get signed up for that. But you do have to pay for your gas unless you want to tow a trailer for me, and then we'll cover your gas. So we'll also get to that. So so let's think about how do you get there? What are you doing? Sort of planning your trip. So I want you to be able to kind of noodle it through, right, and figure out like what you're going to do, because you're all definitely going to be there. So think about a couple different ways you could do this. So one is you could just do, like, if you love driving, some people do, right? Some people love a good road trip. You don't mind spending 5 hours on the road that day. You could just do a day trip to the park, right? Or maybe you could drive out, to somewhere in Kitsap Peninsula on Friday night, stay in an Airbnb and then come Saturday morning. So if you just wanted to spend the day, come see what field day's about, maybe get on, maybe operate a little bit. You could certainly do that. It's less helpful to me, but I'm happy to have you. Would never turn anybody away. So you could do a day trip. Your second option is you could do group camping at the wagon wheel, again, paid for by the club. It is I don't know how you categorize camping sites. It's sort of semi-ish primitive. So pit toilets, there is access to running water, but there's no hookups. So you can't hook up to electricity or water, but there is water, like a spigot that you can go to if you need to, fill something up. Yes, question.
Oh,
Dry camping. Well, see, I was confused because I figure if there's water.
Yeah, it's not exactly dry camping.
It's technically dry camping because yeah, no hookups. Yeah. The comment in the room was dry camping means no alcohol. If that's the case, this is not dry camping. Okay. Of course, you could look for other camping at the park, though. Typically, the park sells out like 9 months in advance. So I'd be very surprised. If you could reserve a spot, you certainly could do that. And then, of course, yes.
The one thing someone could do there, but it's risky, is watch the reservation system just the last few days.
Yeah.
Before you want to go. Sometimes something opens up, but you're playing hit and miss that.
Yeah. So another comment in the room was you could stalk the reservation page, in the last few days before you're going to go out and see if somebody cancels, which could happen, but it's kind of total crapshoot for you. And then, of course, as I mentioned, your own accommodation. So you could look for an Airbnb. There's a few Airbnbs on Marrowstone Island and in Port Hadlock. Yeah, there's a Port Hadlock motel. I'm sure it's a fine establishment. I've been there. So of course you can look for your own accommodations. One note is, I haven't had too much trouble with this in the past, but I just want to make sure everyone's aware. So when we do this event, we apply for a special activity permit with the state park. We tell them, here's where we are, here's what we're doing. We do some stuff that, people wouldn't normally be able to do, like standing up antennas at the beach and driving our trucks on the bluff and, stuff like, bolting things to the ancient bunker structure, right? So we're going to do some stuff that normally, you're not allowed to do. However, that doesn't give any of us like a license to do anything else, right? So we can only do the things that are I document in the special activity permit. So that doesn't mean that you can just drive your car on the bluff or the beach, or that you could set up your own field day operation, on the parade ground or something, right? So so I just want to make sure everybody's aware, like, we have to follow the park rules. We have cultivated over many decades a really great working relationship with the park. Like, they treat us really, really well. And they help us out when we have trouble. And so I just want to remind everybody, please follow all the rules. You have no special dispensation, can't let your dog run loose or do anything special. I think if you Google Washington Park rules, you're going to find this link. So just remember that. Please realize that, you're representing the club in our event, and we've, like I said, we've worked hard relationship with them. And, even with me in charge, we've managed not to run it, though I've tried a few times. So yeah, let's just, please be a good representative of our event. So, okay. So I talked earlier about how do I know where to go and where should I be? So I wanted to give, I didn't update my pictures, but I don't know if the Google Street View got, the resolution seems to go down when you get out there. But I wanted to give people an idea of, like, because this is me, like, I don't know about you, but go to a new event and you're like, where do I go? Who am I? Like, what do I do? I'm a little like, I like to know, like, where is it and what do I do? So when you come up the Flagler Road, this is what it's going to look like as you're coming into sort of the park proper. You're already going to like pass the property line, but there's nothing there. Yes, the gate. Yes, you're not to the gate yet. Yeah, you're okay. Yeah, you're through the gate. That gate's never been closed when I've been there, so I don't know. So you're going to drive in, and this is going to be the first intersection in the park. So when you're at this intersection, if you go straight, you're going to be heading towards that parade ground that I showed you in the picture before. And you're also going to be heading towards the bluff and CW Beach. If you go left, which I think is my next picture, you're going to see the check-in gate, and you're headed towards the wagon wheel. So for the duration of the event, if you are staying at the wagon wheel, you can check in at the gate. Again, you don't have to pay. So not only do you not have to pay to camp, but you don't have to pay the day use fee for the park. So if you go to the gate and you say, I am with the Mike and Key group camp at the wagon wheel, and then you tell them how long you're going to be there, they will issue you a pass. Okay. And you'll just keep that like on your dash or hang it from your mirror, whatever it is that you do. And that'll be your pass. If you have a Discover Pass, or, you've already paid for it, I think it's a Discover Pass, right? Then you can just come and go. You're fine. Just make sure you keep it visible so you don't get in trouble. But if you're coming, especially to camp, please check in there and get your pass from the park staff. So this would be, I've kept going. I've gone past that gate. The first thing on the right, after you pass that gate, is the entrance to the wagon wheel. This is what it looks like. Again, I want to make sure you know where to go. And this is the sort of the view into the wagon wheel. So if you will be staying at the wagon wheel, our wagon master is Dick, WA7NIW. I have his email address here. This will also be in a subsequent email that I'll be sending out, and the emails I sent out previously. So Dick has once again graciously volunteered to be our wagon master. So what you'll do is when you arrive at the wagon wheel, Dick is in charge of kind of keeping things organized and kind of deconflicted, right? So we'd love to have you check in with Dick before you park your trailer or your RV or start setting up your tent, so that Dick can assign you a spot, because he'll have a plan in mind of kind of who's coming and how long they're going to be there and what kind of equipment they're bringing. So yeah, he's like the camp host. So he's not a concierge. Because I feel like a concierge will like go get something for you, and I don't think Dick will do that. But maybe if you ask nicely, but I'm not signing him up for anything. But you'll want to check in with Dick. He'll tell you, you want to send him an email, let him know when you're planning on arriving, when you plan on leaving, and I'll show you some dates later so you can plan. And what are you bringing? Are you bringing a 2-person tent? Are you bringing the tent mahal like Dean N7XS used to do? Are you bringing a giant bus? Are you bringing an RV? Are you bringing a trailer? What is it? You know, just so he has an idea of kind of who he can fit in where, because the wagon wheel's sort of not like a perfect circle, right? So there's better spots for different equipment. It is also not infinite, but we have plenty of room. We have plenty. I have camped there with the Boy Scouts, and which is a little different because they just set up tents. I mean, one time we were there with the Scouts, and I swear they had 60 tents set up on that ground. It can be done. We'll start off very casual with like lots of room so you can drive around, but if we have to, we can fill in. So okay, so timing. Let's talk about dates. Again, you're going to see if you go fill out the Google form, you'll see these dates on the form. This will also be in the email, that a reminder email that I'll send out. So one of the great things the club does is we rent that group campground for the entire week. So we rent it from Monday afternoon to midday on Monday, the following Monday. So we rent that thing for the whole week. And again, like I said, Fort Flagler is a really great location. So if you want to just come out and spend the whole week there, you're certainly welcome to do that. So we can check in there, I think as early as 2:30 on Monday, the 17th. So that's the Monday before field day. So just a quick note. So that time period, kind of that, you know, Monday afternoon through Thursday evening has, over the last, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, that's evolved into something that we affectionately call radio camp. So people get together, people typically bring projects or things they want to try out, you know, and that antenna you wanted to build, that radio you wanted to put together, that, you know, combination of I think it's going to be my POTA setup, but I've never done it, or I don't know how to do it. People bring stuff, and we usually, you know, gather around and help people out and play with our toys. So it's a really good time. You don't have to do that. You could just come and camp and, you know, sit by the campfire at night. That's fine too. But we call it radio camp. It's a really good time. A lot of fun. And the first few days, you know, before the everybody else shows up on Thursday and Friday are usually pretty chill. Yes.
DA just mentioned the gigantic loop that we did back in 20.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you can see it. You can just barely see it in the picture. So sorry, the comment in the room, which you probably didn't hear, was 1 year, which you can barely see in this picture. So if you look above the antenna that's in the foreground, you might see a little white line. We put a 740, 60-foot loop into HF loop antenna around the entire campground 1 year. And then we dropped the coax connector into the shelter and just left it there. So then you could just come along and like plug your HF radio into it and try it out. It was interesting. It was an interesting experience. It wasn't resonant on some of the bands we thought it would be, you know, sort of the design, but it was really resonant on some other bands that were unexpected. So it was really good on 20 meters, if I remember. But so radio camp stuff. Oh, there is the antenna being used. So okay, so let's talk about important stuff. So radio camp, you are certainly welcome, and we would encourage you to join if you can do it. We would love to have you. But the real stuff. So priorities in life, here they are. Field day setup starts at 10 a.m. on Friday, June 21st. So we have a 25-hour period in which to set up. And during that period, technically, we can only work during 24 of the hours. Fine, because if we're out there at like 3 a.m. or something, like the wheels have come off the bus. That's not going to happen. So setup starts at 10 a.m. on Friday on the bluff and on CW Beach at the same time. So this is a time where, if at all possible, you can make it. I could use as much help as I can get, and we have this down to a science. So the club has been doing like this particular field day setup that we'll do, like the particular towers and the arrangement. We've been doing this arrangement for a really long time, like a really long time. Like, I don't know when this particular arrangement started, but it's like more than 10 years ago. So we have a really good system. There's not a lot of heavy lifting. We kind of have it figured out. And of course, many hands makes light work. So when we could use help with everything, we could use help, you know, even people just being spotters, you know, telling me like, you know, they're about to drop something on my head. We could use people who could set up tents. They're pretty, we have newer tents. They're pretty easy to set up. You know, so, you know, if any, you know, if you're like, hey, I can't climb a tower, I can't, that's fine. Like we can always use your help. But there's lots of little jobs to be done, and you know, having more hands makes it easy. And I'll be honest, like the first couple times I did field day, did I know how to assemble a beam? Did I know how to put up a tower? No, but you'll learn. Like it's not as hard as you might think, and we've got lots of people that will show you. So so I would encourage, if you can at all possible, be there for setup. You know, it's a very critical time. Typically, setup starts at 10. We will usually, I'll go more into this later, we will usually try to supply lunch on the bluff, so you don't have to leave. We'll usually take a break about an hour for lunch, somewhere in the middle. And then setup is typically, I would say, we're slower on the bluff than CW Beach, because Mike's looking at me. Mike's like, oh, Mike's done by like 11:30 or something. No, he's not that fast. I think we're typically done, you know, most of the heavy lifting that I said we didn't have is done by like 3 or 4. And then we're kind of putting the finishing touches on stuff. And we're usually like completely off the bluff and done like 6 o'clock at the absolute latest. So, you know, at its worst, it's an 8-hour day out there with a lunch break in the middle. So again, I want to drill into a little more detail of where to go, where to be, right? So this is, if you remember my map earlier where we were looking north, that parade ground is at the very bottom of this picture. The bluff is there at the kind of top middle-ish right. So that is the bluff, and I'll show you a zoomed in view of the bluff so you know what will be where. And then of course, CW Beach is to the right. So CW Beach is, as you go down that really steep drive and turn into the parking lot down there, it's kind of more towards the south end or south half of that parking lot. So where can you park? So CW Beach, it's obvious, it's a parking lot. It's a no-brainer. If you can't figure that out, you probably wouldn't have made it that far anyway. So, but the bluff, we cannot have cars on the bluff during the event. Absolutely not. And when we're setting up, we basically, if you don't know that you're supposed to be on the bluff, do not drive on the bluff. So like if I haven't specifically told you, hey, I need you to drive on the bluff for this purpose, please do not drive on the bluff. I know it's very tempting. It's also fun. Breaking rules is fun. But please don't do it. So our band chairs can, of course, bring their equipment up on the bluff. But if you're not one of those people, and those people know who they are, then please do not drive on the bluff. So for parking, places you can park. And, you know, this is subject to change because events and things happen at the park, but I think this is probably how it'll turn out. So again, CW Beach, it's a parking lot. You're good to go. But parking for the bluff. So when you come across that parade ground, you'll see that parking lot that I've circled there. You could park there, but you probably shouldn't if you don't have to, because it's not a terrible walk from the bluff, but it's not close. If all else fails, you could park there. Usually all else doesn't fail. So you would make a right there and you'd follow that road. So the first circle that I have there is actual paved marked parking. In years past, we haven't really ever had anybody park there because the retreat center are those buildings along the bottom of the thing, and they always have groups staying there. The retreat center is closed. So if you need a paved place to park, that is not bad, and it will probably have some spots available. So you could park there. And then as you go around that corner, that road is going to dead end at a gate that should be closed. But there is a grassy area to the left that the park usually keeps clean and cut back, and we can park there. There's no problem with parking there. The only thing that I would ask is, if you park there, if you are first, please make sure you pull in straight, so we can get as many cars into that area as possible. So, you know, yes. Oh yeah, yeah. So that would be roughly to the left of that sort of the street name there on the map.
Go down,
Okay, so Mike. Yes. Yeah, don't park on the road leading towards the bluff. Yeah, don't park on the grassy area leading to the bluff. Yeah, so Mike just mentioned, you might not be able to hear that online. So on the very sort of bottom of my picture there, where you see sort of the Y in the roads, there's a small parking area there. And that's an easy walk to the bluff. It's all flat. It's pretty flat from there. So there's some spots, but again, just remember, we do need to obey the park rules, right? So we have a special event. You are all special to me, but you're not special to the park. So please play by the rules. So we'll zoom in on the bluff. CW Beach is pretty simple because Mike usually just has like one big tent. So we can figure that out pretty easy. Again, if you get lost with that, can't help you. But the bluff, we have a little bit more complex setup. So this is zoomed in on the bluff. The parking areas I talked about are south of here. The beach is off to sort of the southeast from here. So at the bluff, what we'll have kind of working from the bottom up, at the entrance, there's sort of a narrow spot where people are walking. There's a path. You can kind of see it. There's a path on the left along that tree line. And then there's also sort of a concrete sidewalk that goes to the bunkers. So it's a natural funnel point where people enter the area as they're coming through the park, which you will also enter the area. So we will have an info booth at the very south. The people in the room can't see it, but it's at the very bottom there at the entrance. So, and I'll show you a picture of that. So that's where we'll meet and greet people. Toku has kindly volunteered once again to run the info booth for us. One thing I'll look out for setup is if when Toku shows up to set up the info booth, I would love to have a couple people help him if we could. It's not a huge job, but he could use a hand. So always, if I forget to do that, somebody jump on that. But I'd love to find, one or two people just to help him set up the info booth. And then as you go in, we're going to have a set of stations that we operate for field day. So on the right-hand side, we'll have a get on the air station. So that's what GOTA stands for. So again, I'm trying to make sure you guys all know the words like bluff and CW Beach. So another word we're going to throw out is GOTA. It stands for get on the air. So that's a station that George, AE7G, George has volunteered to run again this year. This is his, I can't remember what year, but George has a fabulous station set up that he'll do for that. So that's an area where we'll greet people and we can get members of the public on the air. So actually get them on the air during field day, get them making contacts. George again has an amazing station. They can see sort of visuals. It's really awesome. So a couple things to note on that is, George will need GOTA coaches, so people to help him. So it's not just him all the time. People who can spell him. So if you're reasonably good at HF and you understand field day, you can go hang out with him. I'm sure that would be helpful. But also, one thing that's interesting about the field day rules, and this is really important, we make a lot of points from GOTA. So we always try to maximize it. One of the things about the field day rules is if you have not been on HF in the past year, so if you're like, man, the last time I was on the air with HF was like 2 years ago, you can go to the GOTA station and get on the air and do that first before you do anything else. And we get points as if you were a visitor. So, is it sort of fudging the spirit of the rules? Kind of, but not exactly, because one of the goals of the GOTA station is not just to educate the public and hopefully, get a bunch of kids on the air, which we'll do. But it's also, to get all of you kind of introduced to HF or reintroduced to HF. So if you haven't been on HF ever, or you haven't been on HF in the last year, please consider visiting the GOTA tent. It's great. Yeah, if your last time you were on HF was a year ago at field day, then you qualify as well. The one thing I will warn you is if you were thinking about getting an HF setup, using George's is gonna hurt the pocketbook because his is amazing. So okay, so other things here. We have a 40-meter station. So that's going to be the band chair for that's going to be Dean N7XS. Dean has also an amazing setup. So if you're there and you see Dean with a fishing pole during setup, ask him what he's up to. It's pretty amazing. So Dean typically will run I think it's a 4-element. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, they're reminding me in the room. So what Dean will put up by using the trees there is a 40-meter beam made of wire with 4 elements pointing south and 7 elements pointing east. Yeah, 11 dipoles. So it ends up being a very powerful station. There's a lot of gain in that. It's an amazing operation. And Dean is possibly, for sideband, possibly our best contrast operator. So if you have a chance to log for him or even just observe him when he's making a run, I think you can learn a lot. It's pretty amazing. So then just north of that will be our 15-meter station. So the 15-meter band chair is Phil, K7PIA. He's your 15-meter band chair. That station will be on a crank-up tower that the club has. So we'll be putting that together and cranking that up. And then north of that is the 20-meter station. The 20-meter station will be operating out of a bunker. So which I think is just amazing. We operate that station out of a bunker. It's a cool, it's a really cool opportunity to do something very unusual. So yeah, it is cool. It is always cooler in the bunker than it is up on the bluff it's some people may say a little too cool, but anyway, if it's a little too warm for you up on the bluff, you can always go down in the bunker. Yeah. Okay. And it's quiet. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Where was I? So then our last station on the bluff will be our digital station. So that's going to be off in the corner over there, which is where it's been for the last 2 years, I believe. And we had somebody new to the club. Is that somebody? Oh, there he is. He's here. I'm sorry. I'm forgetting your name and call sign. And sorry, Robert, I forgot to introduce Robert. Yeah, Robert is the 20-meter band chair. Sorry, Robert. So sorry, what was your David? All right. So David has graciously volunteered. And last I heard from you, you said you were going to go learn FT8. There you go. Yeah, he's learning fast. So yeah, go ahead. Question. Oh, me. Yeah, we did Mesh-tastic at Field Day and at Radio Camp last year. No, I think it was last year, or was it the year before? I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, we did it. We were able to send text messages from the group campsite to the bluff. It was kind of cool. So yeah, sign me up. I'll charge my batteries. I've got like 5 of them or something. So okay. So yeah, sorry. The question in the room was, does anybody want to do Mesh-tastic at Field Day? The answer was emphatic yes. If you don't, oh no, Mesh-tastic, it's on ISM bands. Yeah, so you can do whatever you want. Yeah. 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 Sorry, some in-room discussion about ISM versus ham bands. So. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, another question. The decision. So, okay. So the question is, will we be running a VHF station? So it depends on 2 things. So one is, how many signups do I get for setup and teardown? Because the VHF station requires, for us to do it right, and I think you would want to do it right, requires us to stand up a 3rd tower and assemble 3 beams. And, you know, that takes some time. And that tower is our only, is our freestanding tower. So it requires more diligence in setting up and guying it than our other 2 towers. So it really depends on, and oh, sorry, Hal. Yeah, we could do. So Hal said we could do a 10-foot section of tower. The reason I like the higher tower is because of the safety at 6 meters was anyway. Sorry, another question or comment. We could do 10 meters on our digital station. That's our wild card station. We could try it. But yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, part of what, okay, so sorry, let me close out on I didn't answer the VHF station question. So one, we would need enough people to set up the additional tower and the beams, because there's 3 beams that we would want to do on that tower. Because I was the digital band chair 1 or 2 years, it's really hard. I had a really good year one year and I made like 65 points. We could make 65 points by just making sure like the digital station, you know, is manned during the 11 p.m. hour or something like that. So points wise, you know, if you're just after points, you know, I wouldn't prioritize it. The other thing is you need somebody who has an all mode VHF UHF radio, because the way you do, you know, the way you get 60 or 70 points on VHF is you make a contact with somebody, you work them on, say, 2 meter FM, and then you say, can you do 6 meters? Can you do sideband? Can you do CW? And that's the way you make points. You find one person, you work them 3 times on 3 bands, and then you get 9 points. But it also just took you an hour to get those 9 points. So it's very, very difficult. I'd love to do it again someday, but I need someone who's a VHF guru with the equipment to really be worth it. But you know, hey, if I refresh this form this afternoon and 100 people have signed up, heck yeah, let's do it. Especially if somebody has the all mode radio. All right, yes.
Hey, listening to the presentation about field day, there's nothing said so far about it. So is the club going to be doing that this year or next year?
So the question in the room was, are we going to do any setups that are invis? Invis is super interesting. I think that the challenge is, you know, I don't know if we would want to try it. So we'll talk a little bit about class. And I'm sorry, I'm keeping an eye on time here. I don't think we would want to stand up another transmitter just for invis. I think how can I explain this? If you come to field day and you get on the air on our 20 meter station or our 40 meter station, you'll be like, invis, what's that?
Well, actually,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Actually, the 40 meter antennas are low enough to the ground that they actually do invis.
Okay. Yeah. So the 40 does some invis as well. Okay. So let me move quick. So setup, I mentioned setup. Here's some beautiful setup pictures. So again, many hands makes light work there. If you're coming for setup, couple things to note. Safety is important. I don't know where Alex went. Alex is here. So Alex W7 AEM is volunteered to be our safety officer. He'll be keeping an eye on all of us and our fingers and toes. So if you're going to be on the bluff or at CW Beach during setup, there's just a couple things I need from you. So one is I need you to wear closed toe shoes. You'd be surprised. But it needs to be closed toe shoes. If you have like real work boots or something, you want to wear those, it's not a bad idea, but not exactly necessary. It'd also be great if you could bring gloves. And if you have a hard hat of your own, bring your hard hat. But we do have in our equipment trailer some gloves and hard hats. We have a few. So, but if you have your own, please bring it for setup. So we won't want anybody around any of this stuff while we're lowering and raising without a hard hat on. And then obviously if you're handling rope or equipment or anything, we want you to have gloves. So we do want to be safe. You know, safety is really a priority. And we will stop the show hopefully be able to resume, if we feel that there's something unsafe going on. The other thing is, I want to encourage you all, if you see something that you think is unsafe, call it out. Like, I'm empowering you to call it out. And if you're wrong about it, like you just, we look at it and go, oh no, that's, it's how it's supposed to be. That's fine. Like, so please, no condemnation on anyone, right? If you see something and you're like, hey, that looks a little sketchy, or, I'm worried that guy's about to, fall off the tower or something, like, tap one of us on the shoulder and say, hey, is that okay? It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So, and the more eyes we have and the more of a safety mindset we have, the better it'll be for all of us. Cause I don't want anybody to get hurt. The nearest, it's not a dangerous place, but the nearest emergency room is not exactly close. Right. So, yeah. Right. So, I want you all to be safe. So, if you see something, come get me or come get somebody else, or just holler out, and we'll stop and get things sorted out. So please just, be safe, and you're encouraged. Daniel. Yes.
Safety tape that's pretty on CWB, right? Tape up. Don't go inside that tape, because we've done RF calculations, and that's the safe distance for you to be away from it now.
Yeah.
Watch out for safety tape for.
So Daniel's calling out that we will put up safety tape around some of our antennas to keep you from wandering into the RF field. We do have a few antennas that are going to be a bit lower to the ground where we'll need to do that. Most of them we won't, but there will be some. So if you see sort of tape, yellow tape, cordoning off an area, don't go there unless you know what you're doing. Defer to your band chair. How about that? Okay. So yes. The maximum power for field day is 100 watts. Yeah. Yeah. That's why we do the giant Yagi antennas, because the maximum power is 100 watts. Okay. So Friday evening, we will hold a potluck dinner at the Wagon Wheel Campground. So if you are there for setup, bring something for the potluck to share. I'm not going to try to do that thing where I make a list of, like, if your name is A through, L, bring a salad or something. Just bring whatever you want. Bring enough for at least, how many people that you have with you. And we'll have a potluck on Friday night. I am looking for someone who would like to take the lead on the potluck. Ivy has graciously gathered for me all the information about how to do it, like what's required, what needs to be purchased. Obviously, anything that you would purchase for the potluck, the club will reimburse you. So you just keep your receipts, and I can fill you in on what the budget would be. So we'll pay for everything. But the challenge that I have for the potluck is I have to be on the bluff. So there's just no way I can do it. It's just physically, time and space and all that. I literally can't be in two places at once. So I do need someone to volunteer to take the lead for the potluck. I have a few people in mind that likely would be able to help. So it wouldn't be one person necessarily doing everything. But if you're interested, I would love to have someone who would like to take on the potluck. Another thing that we would like to do, as I mentioned earlier, is also provide lunch on the bluff during setup. So that would be like a cooler of drinks and water and, bread and lunch meat and stuff like that. Yes. Oh, I have a Gregor. You're the best. Gregor, I will try not to forget your name, and I'll send you an email with all the details. And Ivy, if you could, Ivy will forward me the email. So Ivy's got all the details from years past. And like I said, there'll probably be a few people that set up or will help with that setup. Yes.
You didn't say it explicitly, but the club provides hamburgers, hot dogs.
Yeah, sorry, I was just about to add. Well, what I wanted to do is make it sound super simple and then get Gregor to sign up. And now I'll talk about all the details. So
no.
Yeah. So caviar, lobster boil. No, so typically what we do is it is a potluck. So what we'll do is the club we'll fire up the barbecue there. So we'll need, Gregor will send you the list. But we'll have hot dogs and hamburgers, like the hot dogs and hamburgers you get in bulk from Costco. And we'll have buns and hot dog buns. and the club will provide, some sodas and waters that, and condiments. Yeah. And then, you all bring, your cakes and cookies and salads and, all the wonderful things that your beans, your chili, whatever it is that you want to bring to the potluck. So the club will take care of sort of like the burgers and dogs. Maybe we'll find Ivy Ivy burger. Ivy takes care of herself. Sorry. So the club will take care of like the burgers and dogs and the drinks, and then you bring anything else that you would like to bring. So yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's cool. And I would say, again, like we think of just thinking about, like I said earlier, events in the life of the club. That Friday night potluck is another one of those events. I mean, it's just such a great time. We'll see a lot of people. Oftentimes, club members that we like never see resurface for field day, or maybe just for that potluck. So, it's true. It's true. Cause oftentimes like I had gone in years past and somebody like, oh my gosh, so-and-so's here. And I'm like, I've been in the club for like 6 years and I don't even know who they are. But it's great. It's great. So the potluck is, again, just these moments, these handful of moments throughout the life of the club. The potluck is one of them. It's awesome. So the other thing that I will try to do this year is I'll try to get the band chairs sign-up sheets for the potluck, so you can get people signed up for shifts during field day. Because obviously like the band chairs will operate a lot because that's what they love to do, but they can't operate the entire 24 hours. So another advantage of being there for setup and being there for the potluck is we can get you signed up to work a station during field day. So you can be, sort of in charge. Or again, if you're like, hey, I've never done this before, you could just be a logger, like you can log. So I'm keeping an eye on time. So that's a little picture of the potluck. It's the wagon wheel cube ground. I'll put this back up at the, yes. Yeah, so sorry, Hal reminded me, because this has been a point of confusion. So to be clear, the only food that will be provided are the things that I've mentioned. So we will provide, or try to provide, or Gregor will provide. Thank you, Gregor. We'll do lunch for the setup crew on the bluff, and CW Beach can come up and get lunch too. We will have the potluck, but that's it. So we won't be hosting a breakfast the next, Saturday morning. You won't be doing anything else. So you're on your own for everything else. So just to be clear. Yeah. So Saturday evening, typically the potluck leftovers will come back and we'll grill more hot dogs and stuff, but that's a little less, it's a little more loosely organized, but odds are Saturday night, you can probably get fed at the wagon wheel. So field day itself, man, I've been talking a long time. I want to wrap up on time here. So the event itself starts at 11 a.m. on Saturday. So that's when, field day starts and we're operating and everything's, the big machine is running and it's awesome. I mentioned earlier the Toku, thank you, is going to do the booth. So this is what the public is going to see as they come, as they come to walk the trail around the park or they come to visit that area. They're going to see our welcome booth. So we're going to welcome people in. So I would encourage you, to be a good representative of your hobby, be a good representative of the club, right? Just, people ask questions, just welcome them, answer their questions. It's really great. It's really great experience. So here's I have a few pictures of people operating, more modern pictures. So we're intense. This is George's setup. Again, I mentioned it's amazing. Very, very awesome. There's Manfred. You know that guy. Let me just flip through these real quick. Mike. I threw this slide in just for Mike. Okay, so I'm out of time, but I wanted to give you all an idea of like, how do you do field day? So, if you're familiar with contesting, sometimes they're like a little complicated and they all vary, right? It's like sometimes you tell them your name and your state. Sometimes you give them a number, you're number 22 or whatever. Field day is relatively simple. So the field day exchange is your call sign, your class, and your section, which is basically where you are. So the call sign for us is going to be K7LED. So we're all going to operate as the club, except for the go-to station, which will operate with George's call sign. That's special. So you'll be K7 LED. Your class, our class is 6 alpha, and I won't explain that, just trust me. But our class is 6 alpha, and our ARRL section is Western Washington. So WWA or WWA, yes. Yes. Yeah. So the comment in the room was, if you can't make it to field day, but we don't talk about that. Oh, I'll cover that at the end. Disappointing, but yeah. So basically that's the field day exchange. Your call sign, your section, your class, your section. So K7 LED, 6 alpha, whiskey alpha. And then you'll get the same thing back from them, right? So, whatever they are, their class, their section. If you want to familiarize yourself, you can look at the field day rules and get an idea of the kinds of things you're going to hear, 1 alpha, 1 bravo, 5 delta, whatever, right? You probably won't hear, you'll probably hear 1 delta a lot. 1 delta means somebody at home. So again, this is the call that I mentioned. For the logging software. So a few people in the past have said, man, even if I want to be a logger, like I've never contested, I've never used logging software. Like I'm kind of afraid, like it might be complicated. So we use a software called N3FJP. So it's N3FJP. If you go download, this software costs money, but if you download it, you can log a few contacts for free. I think it's like 25. So if you want to, yes. Oh, they have a 45-day free trial. Yeah. So, well, interestingly enough, we won't use this on the digital station because the digital logs everything anyway. So the digital will be different, but this is a logging software that we use. It's really simple. So if you look sort of in the middle left-hand side where it says call, class, and section, that's where we enter the information that we hear from the other station. So if you wanted to go download the software, I think it's for Windows only, but if you wanted to download it and play with it for 45 days and get familiar with it, just you'll learn it in like 5 minutes tops. But if you're just like, hey, I want to know how to work this thing before I get there, you can give it a try. It's really, it's pretty simple. It's set up for contesting. It's set up to go fast. And on some of our stations, we'll run a rate, which is how many contacts per hour. Sometimes we go as high as like 120. So you can enter really fast, really easily. But if you want to familiarize yourself with it, it'll also help you out because you'll see there that it has all of the sections. So sometimes the sections, the call signs are call signs, and the classes are usually pretty easy to figure out. Sometimes the sections are a little confusing. You might mishear something, or it might be down in the noise. So it has kind of a cheat sheet for you there, so you could see the different section names. But usually what people do is they'll say it and give you the letters or the phonetics. Okay. Sorry, I'm over time here, Carl. Hopefully I'll try to wrap this up. So a couple changes for rule changes. People always go, hey, what are the rule changes? The key takeaway for rule changes this year is nothing changed that affected us for our operation. So it affected other people. So another really big part of field day is bonus points. So our bonus points chair this year will again be Manfred. Manfred, thank you very much. So these are the things that we'll be doing in addition to operating to just get bonus points. And there's a whole bunch of things. Our goal every year is to try to do all of these. And most years we do all of them except maybe 1 or 2. So bonus points are really important. So, a lot of them just happen because we exist, operating in a public location, having a public information table. But these are things that we will do to get bonus points. One thing I want to call out, because you have a visit by an elected official and visit by a served agency, please don't help me get that by calling 911. We've suggested that in the past because, if you create an event so big, the sheriff comes out and they're an elected official and the police department's a served agency, we're checking stuff off the list. But yeah, we won't do that if we can help it. Yeah, we don't want to get swatted. Though I don't know what the Jefferson County SWAT team looks like. I'm sure they're great. So then field day is a 24-hour event. It goes from 11 a.m. to 11 a.m. So it actually goes overnight. We may not run all of our stations completely during the overnight hours because certain bands especially 15 meters, will shut down, kind of close down overnight. But stations like 40 meters will run all night. God bless Dean. Thank you, Dean. And then teardown, if you stay for teardown, due to the effects of gravity, teardown is easier than setup. Yeah. So teardown usually goes much quicker. We're typically done by around 3 p.m. Like 3 p.m. We're hauling the last trailer off the bluff. So we're typically teardown. So again, the event ends at 11. We're typically done with teardown around 3 or so. Obviously, if we have more people there, it'll go more quickly. And teardown is easy. It is relatively easier than setup. So, and I said, many hands makes light work. Same thing for teardown. So again, if you can, really, if you can be there for me for the whole thing, man, if you could show up on Friday morning, and leave at 3 p.m. on Sunday, I will be loving you. Usually it's a small group there at the very end. And I would love to have you there. We really, I really appreciate all the help, and I just could not do it without you all. Yeah, we usually take a picture of like sort of the last like 12 people that are there at the very end. So I'd love that to be more people if you could be there, even if you're like, hey, I can't, carry heavy stuff or whatever, just the moral support would be awesome. So the group camping I mentioned goes through the whole week. So group camping ends at noon on Monday. So you don't have to go home. So field day's over, you don't have to go home. In fact, usually there's a bunch of us that stay over, and then we go to dinner at the Mexican place in town on Sunday night. So that's a very elite group. Again, you're welcome. I would love someday for us to show up there and then them to be upset at us because they, need to pull like 5 tables together or something. So a couple quick notes. Local simplex frequency. We're usually pretty good about monitoring the K7 LED 2-meter repeater during field day. We're not perfect. The repeater has decent coverage within the park, but it's not great. We're far away from the repeater. So we also try to monitor this simplex frequency 146.58. So if you're there, and you can monitor it, I try to. I usually end up losing my radio somewhere in the middle. So, so we try to monitor 146.58. So a quick note on weather. I won't give you the full briefing. I know Ivy used to give us the full rundown, bug spray and sunscreen, and you're going to be outside. It's the state of Washington, and it's the end of June. So the conditions there are generally quite pleasant. It can be buggy, but most years it's not, but it can be. Just depends on the weather. Depends kind of on how much it rains, like now than in the month prior. But the weather there is generally quite pleasant. The average over the last, I think I updated this. I looked at the last 15 years or so. The average high's been 75. The average low's been 52. So it's very mild. This is the history to give you an idea sort of what it's been like. Interestingly enough, the 2 years that we weren't there for COVID, it was hot as hell. In fact, if you remember 21, it was 95 degrees. We weren't there. But those 2 years were really unusual. And I haven't looked at the Farmer's Almanac, so I don't know what the guess is. But, as you can see, sort of mid to high 60s is pretty typical, but it could get warmer. It is very pleasant there. There is, I think, always a slight breeze, like almost always a slight breeze there. Yes.
Saturday night, a campfire.
Yeah, so just a plug for wagon wheel camping. We usually hang around the campfire many of the evenings. Yeah, bring some firewood. The club does not provide firewood. Okay, so now, however, I want to say it can and has in many years past, rained like heck up there, right? So it's 2012 off of my list, but here's a picture. So again, it is Washington at the end of June, right? We don't have guarantee, it's not until about July 4th that weather is good. So it could rain. So I would just suggest, again, be prepared, have a good jacket, dress in layers, bring a sweater. You may not need it, but you might, in the mornings, it'll be cool. Bring your sunscreen, bring a hat, bring your gloves, bring your hard hat, bring your closed toe shoes for setup. you know, all of that stuff. So just be prepared. So again, a summary, I will post this. I'll try to remember to post this slide deck in my email that I'll send later today so you can look at all these dates. But just a reminder, group camping starts on Monday, set up 10 a.m. on Friday the 21st. Field day starts at 11 a.m., ends at 11 a.m. on Sunday, and then we do tear down. And then, of course, group camping ends at noon on Monday. We have to be out of there. So quick note for those of you that can't join us, these rules are on the ARRL site. So Class D stations can now work all other field day stations. In years past, they couldn't. This was a COVID thing. They have not clawed this back. So you can work field day from home. You would be your own call sign. If you are at home with one transmitter on commercial power, you're a Class D station. So if you're at home, you'd be 1 Delta. So if you're at home, you're, you know, like I would be WA7DY 1 Delta Whiskey Alpha. So there's rules for that. I would suggest you check those rules. And then, of course, there is an idea of a club aggregate score. So if you work from home field day, you can submit on your own field day results through the web form. It's not a really hard form to fill out. And you would report your score using the club's name. And this is what we've chosen. There is another Mike and Key like in Minnesota or something. So we use Mike & Key ARC. So that's how I'll submit the club score. So if you work field day from another location, submit your score like that. And then let's see, I mentioned critical needs. So we talked, thank you, Gregor. So that would have been one, coordination of the potluck. And then usually around this time, I'm freaking out because I need people to haul the trailers up to field day, but I have 2 volunteers. So I have, I think Carl volunteered. Carl, did you click it on accident, Carl? Oh, Carl wants to be the backup. Okay, so I do have a critical need. So I really need someone who can tow a trailer up to field day. They're kind of big. They're not super heavy, but they're trailers. So it needs to be somebody with a vehicle, like a full-size truck, you know, something that can tow, you know, a bigger thing, not a, you know, like your Toyota Tacoma is probably not going to cut it. So if you can tow a trailer to field day, we will pay for your gas and your ferry if you take the ferry. So we'll reimburse you for your fuel and any of your other travel costs. And that the trailers would need to arrive at the wagon wheel no later than Thursday evening. And then I would need you to be available to pull the trailer to the bluff on Friday morning at 10 a.m. And then obviously be there around 3 p.m. on Sunday to take the trailer off the bluff. You don't have to go home at that time. You could take the trailer back to the wagon wheel and stay over till Monday morning. You could come earlier, but we need the trailers there on Thursday evening at the absolute latest. So we can't do, basically the trailers are our whole operation on the bluff. So we can't run the risk of being like 2 p.m. on Friday and me texting you and you're like, well, I'm about to get on the ferry. So, so we really need them there on Thursday night. So if you're able to tow a trailer, please let me know. I'll also have that on the form that I send out. So if you want to check the thing on the form, and then I'll follow up with you. But yeah, they're real trailers with like the brake connect. I'm not a trailer guy. Yes.
Okay, one trailer requires
One trail. Yeah. The tower. Okay. So one trailer, the tower trailer requires an electric brake connection and the other trailer does not. So that's the detail. But I believe that they both have the plug for the lights. Yeah. 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 And if I remember correctly, I think technically the tower trailer is larger in dimension, but lighter. The equipment trailer is shorter, but probably heavier. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So if you want to contact me, you can send me an email, wa7dy@arrl.net. I think we covered all the questions. Oh, sorry. He's taking a picture. Take a picture. I'll also be sending an email out to the group's IO list for the club. So if you're on that, you'll get my email. I'm going to skip questions because I'm over time and we answered a lot of questions along the way. So one other note, we do have a field day list. I try to copy the field day list every time I do an update. if you want to join that list, if you want to ask questions about field day, it'll come to me, it'll come to other people on the list. Be happy to answer any questions that you have there. I don't send a ton of emails to the list. It's a very quiet list, except obviously around this time of year. So if you want to join that one, I try to keep my insiders informed. And then again, last, but yes. So Ivy will host once again this year her Thursday and Friday night whiskey tasting sessions. Whiskey potluck. Oh, so you can bring your own whiskey. It's encouraged. Yeah, so there will be a hard liquor potluck on Thursday and Friday night that Ivy will be overseeing. I think it's a good time, but I can barely remember because I usually participate. It's a little hazy. Yeah.
Want to mention that bicycle is a good way to get around up there, especially between the wagon wheel and the bluff.
Yeah. So
An e-bike is even better. It would allow you to tackle the hill down to CWD. If you do bring a bike, you need to wear a helmet. That's the rule.
yeah, so I don't know how good the online can hear the room, but Robert was calling out that bringing a bicycle, so you can just leave your vehicle at the wagon wheel and ride a bike back and forth, is a really great. It's a quick. Yeah, yeah. And if you've been to the whiskey potluck, then ride your bike. Sorry, we're way over time. He's giving me the cut signal. So again, this is the sign up thing here. I'll leave this up. I'm sure we're going to have a break, right? A little break. We're going to have a 5-minute break and then Carl will take over. Hey, thank you all for your questions. I'm really looking forward to seeing you all at Field Day. Thank you.
I think Dave got back at me for that wonderful introduction I gave him. We need 5 minutes. Be on the dot. Be back here at 20 after, please. We got 14 people for new members. So